All right. So I guess, yeah, we'll jump right into it then. Let's talk WrestleMania 6. So WrestleMania 6, actually, you want to just kind of give the rundown of it took place in 1990. You want to tell the listeners a bit more about the event?
Sure. So I'll just tell where it happened, where it took place. Obviously, it's WrestleMania 6, 1990. It was in Skydome, which is now the Rogers Center, where the Toronto Blue Jays play baseball. It was the first international WrestleMania. There's only been 2. It was 6 and 18 were in Toronto. Nothing else has been held outside of North America. I'm going to go quick down the card. I'm not going to tell you the winners and the losers. We're just going to go very quick down these cards. And the cards in the beginning of the 90s, it was like a participation trophy. Everybody got on the card. Coco Beware versus Rick Martel. Demolition versus Haku and Andre the Giant. Earthquake versus Hercules. Brutus Beefcake versus Mr. Perfect. Bad News Brown versus Roddy Piper. Heart Foundation versus the Bolsheviks. Barbarian versus Tito Santana. Macho King and Sensational Sherry versus Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire. Orient Express versus the Rockers. See, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. That was around the time I really started to watch. Jim Duggan versus Dino Bravo. I'm still going on the same WrestleMania, folks. I swear. Ted DiBiase versus Jake Roberts. Big Boss Man versus Akeem. Rick Rude versus Jimmy Snuka. And Hogan versus Warrior. Wow. If Vince was in charge now, that'd be 3 nights of WrestleMania right there.
That's a hell of a card right there. Now, before we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, you didn't watch it, obviously, as a kid, but have you seen it in its entirety since then?
Yeah, a few times I have.
Okay.
Especially, I got them all, I don't remember the year. I want to say at least 12, maybe even 15 years ago. They started the anthology sets, and WrestleMania was the first one. So I gobbled all those up.
Yep.
I have all the WrestleManias. I have the Royal Rumbles, and I have most of the Survivor Series or SummerSlams. So I had these all on DVD at one point. Now they're all on the network. But I find these very enjoyable to go watch.
Yeah.
It's popcorn time, so to speak. It's not something I take seriously. Some people do take their wrestling very seriously. I just go for the ride, and if it stinks, I laugh. If it's good, I reminisce, or reminisce if it stinks sometimes too.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, because we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. That doesn't mean we didn't enjoy watching these, right? I mean, so like, even as an adult going back and watching it, would you say you enjoy watching WrestleMania 6?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because this has some moments in it that are important. Like it's the only Dusty Rhodes WrestleMania. It's probably Brutus Beefcake's biggest win ever as a singles wrestler on a big stage. It's the last match or main match of Andre the Giant's WWE career. So
yeah,
a little bit of everything.
A lot of significance there. And of course, again, with that main event there, it was the what was supposed to be the passing of the torch with Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, with the Ultimate Warrior coming out on top as the new WWF champion. Obviously, that passing of the torch didn't really last too long, but we'll get to that, I'm sure, in another WrestleMania or two. So, let's go through it then. What do we got for, we'll do the good, the bad, the ugly. Go ahead.
So the good is Hogan versus Warrior.
Sure.
And I'm a huge fan of, especially WrestleMania matches. The main event, if possible, I should be walking into it. I don't know who's going to win this.
Yeah.
This is the quintessential top tier. I don't know who's going to win this.
I feel like
Hogan versus Warrior.
I was going to say, I feel like WrestleMania, of all those big shows they put on, I feel like that one usually has a pretty good kind of mystery to it. Not always, mind you. There's definitely been WrestleManias where the main event, you're like, okay, this guy's obviously going to win. They've built it up that way. But sometimes no. And I would agree. In this particular case, you definitely really did not know, because Hulk Hogan at that point was undefeated at, all of his WrestleManias that he was in.
Yep.
Or
yep.
Was he was undefeated, right? Yeah.
He didn't.
He had lost.
I think he lost by DQ at WrestleMania 4.
Right, but
it was a double DQ against Andre in the tournament, but he didn't have his shoulders pinned.
Right, and he wasn't in the title picture at that point. So basically, he had been champion for 5 out of the 6 WrestleManias, and he went in as champion and came out as champion, I believe.
Correct. Yes, WrestleMania 4, he was not the champion going in because it was vacant. And that would be 88.
Yep.
When Macho Man won the tournament. But even that, it had Hogan's fingerprints all over it. He was in the main event.
Exactly.
He had somebody with a chair. This was Hogan lost, and he lost clean.
Yes.
Like, no shenanigans. So that's the good of this. The bad of this, I'm a huge Macho fan. I'm a average Dusty fan. Macho deserved better than this. This is Dusty's only WrestleMania, and it was a mixed tag with Sapphire.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Now,
It's not good.
how would you have felt if they had just done Macho Man versus Dusty Rhodes?
Oh, sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Macho versus Dusty at a WrestleMania. Yeah, that's
Why do you think
that would've been fantastic.
Why do you think they made it an intergender tag match?
because I think from what I've read, I think Vince didn't really like Dusty.
Okay.
But hell, his son's probably going to beat Roman Reigns in 2 weeks.
I mean,
so,
yeah.
as we're recording this,
that's true. And look who's calling the shots, though. It's not Vince McMahon anymore. So there
it's
it
not
is.
Vince.
All right. So that's
the ugly.
Yeah.
Is bad.
Yes.
Bad. This is the now infamous Roddy Piper versus Bad News Brown. And this is where Roddy Piper painted half his body black
Yes.
to supposedly say the issue was as clear as black and white.
Supposedly.
I don't know how Bad News, and I've
Yeah.
read some stories about Bad News Brown. Actually, Lance Storm and Don Callis have some great stories about Bad News Brown, Bad News Allen up in Stampede Wrestling. If you're a fan of him or of that era, go check out some of the stories about Bad News Brown Allen up in Calgary with Lance Storm and Don Callis on their podcast. But I don't know how Bad News Brown didn't just go berserk. There's an urban legend that Andre, who was a prankster, did something to the paint or whatever it was that Piper put on him, and it wouldn't come off, and Piper was scrubbing, and he actually had to go through the airport like that. So maybe Andre didn't particularly care for what Piper was insinuating or what WWF was insinuating, but either way, it wasn't a good look then, and especially in 2023.
Yeah. No.
Whoa. As much as I like Hot Rod, not good.
Yeah.
Definitely not good.
Aged like
so that's
milk.
the bad. Yeah. Really, really bad. So that's your rundown for WrestleMania 6.
All right. Well, let's move on up the card then, as it were, and we'll look at WrestleMania 7 in 1991. Where did that event take place?
That took place in Los Angeles. It was supposed to be in the LA Coliseum, which was an outdoor venue. They actually advertised it still. If you watch WrestleMania 6 on the network, network if you're overseas, if you're in the U.S., it's on Peacock, you'll see ads run during WrestleMania 6 for WrestleMania 7 at the LA Coliseum. The WWF reasoning was, again, talk about something that has not aged well. This is when Sergeant Slaughter became a Iraqi sympathizer. We were at Desert Storm. It was not something you would joke about now, but Desert Storm was going on at the time, and they made it into a storyline that Sergeant Slaughter was a Iraqi sympathizer. The storyline was they couldn't hold it, or I don't want to say storyline, the reasoning the WWF had was it was not a safe atmosphere for it to be outdoors because of all the hate Sergeant Slaughter was getting. And Sergeant Slaughter got legitimate hate. There's been many interviews with Slaughter saying he feared for his life. There was bomb threats against him, his wife, his family.
Yeah.
Not good, because this time period, people kind of were smartened up, but you were talking about our, making a storyline into our, guys and gals overseas and defending our freedom, or just freedom in general. I was very young at the time.
Yeah.
So I couldn't give the specifics of that, but nobody wants to talk about a conflict.
No, well, and that's the thing too. Even back then, like you think it's bad, it was bad, back then. Now, like just with the keyboard warriors, I mean, yeah, people have always taken things too far. Whether you're smart to wrestling or not, just you don't do that, man. You don't threaten a man's life. I mean, it's. And who knows, maybe because I feel like that still happens today. You know what I mean? I feel like
it certainly does. If somebody has an opinion that's different than somebody else's, it just I don't know. We can't cure that. We're here to just distract everybody.
Yes.
So they moved it from the LA Coliseum to I believe the LA Sports Arena, regular sized arena. I do like the theme of it. It had a red, white, and blue WrestleMania theme, which was pretty cool.
Yep.
Obviously going for the American hero Hogan versus the evil Iraqi sympathizer Saddam Hussein loving Sergeant Slaughter. It's not opinion, folks. That's just a storyline.
Yep.
Storyline. I need to clarify that. That was the storyline. So running down this card, not as bad. Rockers versus Haku and Barbarian, also known as Ming. Damn, imagine that. Just listen to that. I'm going to stop for 1 second. The Rockers versus Ming / Haku and the Barbarian.
Yeah. I mean,
fantastic.
Absolutely.
Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich versus Dino Bravo, British Bulldog versus Warlord, Hart Foundation versus Nasty Boys, Jake Roberts versus Rick Martel in a blindfold match. Some guy named The Undertaker versus Jimmy Snuka, Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior, Kato and Tenryu versus Demolition, Mr. Perfect versus the Big Boss Man, Legion of Doom versus Power and Glory, Virgil versus Ted DiBiase, Mountie versus Tito Santana, and Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter.
Good God, that's a lot of matches.
It is. So the good in this, Macho Man versus Warrior.
Great match.
I would say the two best matches Warrior ever had, at least in the WWF and WCW, was this match and the previous match at WrestleMania. So his two WrestleMania matches were great, but look who he was working with also.
Yeah.
You're working with Macho and Hogan in 90 and 91. They're going to be good matches, but this is a very good match, and the storyline was Warrior won the match, but Macho redeemed himself with Elizabeth.
Yeah. Big iconic moment there.
Yes, so people legitimately crying in the crowd. So they did take things seriously.
Yeah.
So actually, excuse me, that was the great moment. So like I said, some are going to have good, bad, and ugly. Some are going to have great, good, bad, and ugly. That was a great moment. That was the great part of the show was the Macho Man.
Yep.
The good part was the start of the streak, The Undertaker.
Yep.
Not a great match, but it's more than a match.
Yeah.
So you get to see the start of The Undertaker, the start of this famous streak.
And obviously back then they didn't have the streak planned. It wasn't like this guy's going to go for 30 years. It was, he just was good and he happened to. I wonder though when they started saying, "Hey, he's just not going to lose at WrestleMania." I feel like it had to be pretty far into it.
The first time they acknowledged it on screen,
It was WrestleMania 21, wasn't it?
no, it was WrestleMania. Oh crap. WrestleMania 18 versus Flair. When he won, Taker went on the stage and counted 10 on his fingers and rolled his eyes back.
Gotcha.
That was the first time he acknowledged, or the commentary acknowledged, he's never lost.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that's a good moment. The bad, I'm actually going to say the main event, because as much as the year before was unpredictable, there's no way Hogan was going to lose to Slaughter.
Yeah.
And it was not a good match. So I could deal with a predictable match. It's still going to be lower in my book. But lower match, and it's a predictable outcome and a bad match, it's not good.
It's not good.
And ugly, the blindfold match between Jake Roberts and Rick Martel.
I think I remember that. I'm trying to didn't they wear like
have
hoods over their heads versus
They
like
wore hoods over their heads. It was bad. That would have been funny for an episode of Superstars.
Yeah.
But not WrestleMania. Again, you're taking two great wrestlers, Rick Martel and Jake Roberts, and you're putting them in some stupid gimmick. No.
Yeah.
No. This was not good.
Okay. Now, from a nostalgic perspective, obviously it was the first one you remember watching, and I'm sure you've watched it since then. Do you enjoy watching WrestleMania 7?
Not really, no.
Okay. So you'll skip it if you were going to do a WrestleMania binge, where you're just kind of picking your favorites, this would not necessarily show up.
No, I don't think so. There is some nostalgia for it, but the nostalgia is just because it was my first memory of a WrestleMania.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and take a look at WrestleMania 8 in...
Go ahead.
WrestleMania 8 in 1992.
Yep. 1992. This one, man, nostalgia strong, but it's also a good card. 1992 at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was a dome show, which, wasn't that common after this for a long time.
Yeah.
I really like this WrestleMania, and there's a couple of reasons why. Let's go over the match card quick. Shawn Michaels versus Tito Santana. Undertaker versus Jake Roberts. Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper for the Intercontinental title. 8-man tag. I'm just going to say that because it was garbage. Macho Man versus Ric Flair. Tatanka versus Rick Martel. Natural Disasters versus Money Inc. for the tag titles. Owen Hart versus Skinner. And Hulk Hogan versus Sid. I don't know if I mentioned it. Macho Man versus Flair was for the world title.
But not going on last. Notice that.
No, it wasn't. So we'll start with the great Macho Man. it was, like I said previously, he won the title at WrestleMania 4 in 88, but it had Hogan's fingerprints all over it.
Yep.
And also, Hogan was gone, and then there were the Mega Powers. I just didn't. It felt like it was still Hogan, kind of still there.
Yeah.
The good is, man, there's two great matches, two very good matches. So great is Macho because I feel like it's Macho's defining moment in the WWF.
Yeah.
Good is just one tier down at Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper. Really the catalyst for what Bret's going to become. Roddy, I believe, do not come at me with pitchforks. I believe this is Roddy Piper's only pinfall loss in the WWF. I mean, technically, Roddy Piper lost clean. He lost with a roll-up. The bad is the tag team title match. Natural Disasters versus Money Inc. That's IRS and Ted DiBiase. It just wasn't good. And then the ugly, the whole main event, Hogan and Sid. Just, first of all, the fact that they were the main... I should just say the fact that they were the main event is ugly.
Yeah.
That's Hogan. It's not going to work for me, brother. It was a cluster. And then you had the late run-in by Papa Shango, who nobody knew who he was. The only thing that saved that, obviously, was the Warrior coming back. But Bobby Heenan, in general, 92, is a god on the microphone.
Yes, as a commentator, was untouchable.
Oh, my God. But I could still hear him. He's freaking out. Like, it says Ultimate Warrior. And his voice is cracking, which is a no-no in broadcasting.
Yeah.
But Bobby Heenan he had that aura about, I feel like I could do a whole show on Bobby Heenan in the 90s.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
Oh my God. He was freaking out, but it was real because he was probably screaming so loud that his voice was cracking and he was coughing, but it felt real with Bobby Heenan. So he was the only thing good about that main event was Bobby Heenan freaking out about the Ultimate Warrior. But the whole thing was just, God, it was that bad.
Yeah. That's fair. I was going to say the only highlight from that main event, in my opinion, would have been, Warrior making the return. Of course, he looked very different at that point. He
wasn't on the juice.
He wasn't on the juice. He got a haircut, so a lot of people didn't even think it was actually the Ultimate Warrior. But yeah,
they thought it was Kerry Von Erich.
They did, because he definitely slimmed down to have more of that kind of Texas Tornado body type. So that's
man, I wish I had a slimmed down body like Warrior 2.
So all right, so all in all,
love it.
So the whole show, you enjoy WrestleMania 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
WrestleMania 8's like my jam.
Yep. I would. I've seen, again, bits and pieces, but everything I've watched on it, loved. Fantastic. So definitely agree with you on that. All right, WrestleMania 9. This is a very unique WrestleMania. I can tell you're going to love this one. So WrestleMania 9, 1993.
Yeah, is in Caesar's Palace.
That's
parking lot.
That's very. Oh, it's the parking lot.
Yeah.
I never realized that, I guess.
I don't know. I take that back. I don't know, but that's the joke. It's live from Caesar's Palace. Outside in their parking lot, it looks like.
I remember, because, it was an outdoor WrestleMania, which was, I guess the first one, right? Technically?
Yeah, I don't think even technically it
No,
is.
it was. Yeah, because I was trying to think like WrestleMania 3.
I mean, Skydome could have been.
Okay, but they didn't. They left the...
They didn't. They had the roof closed.
Okay, so this is the first... Now, I do remember also, and you're going to go through the match card in a second, but I remember, the crowd, it was a lot smaller because they couldn't fit as many people. So it definitely looked like a smaller WrestleMania overall. But I thought it was kind of cool. It was gimmicky because it was, Caesar's Palace. Everyone was wearing the old, togas and everything like that. And it looked cool, but it was definitely smaller in scale. It felt like.
Yes, and I don't like doing armchair quarterback in general, but I have, especially during COVID when things were really boring. I remember saying to you, I rebooked 1993 Royal Rumble up until WrestleMania 9. Because I will go on record saying that this is probably the worst booked WrestleMania of all time. The talent that they had under contract, and this is the card they produced, is disgusting.
Well, let's give a rundown of the match card. Let's see what we got.
Shawn Michaels versus Tatanka for the Intercontinental title. Steiner Brothers versus the Head Shrinkers. Doink versus Crush. Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund. Money Inc. versus Brutus Beefcake and Hulk Hogan. Mr. Perfect versus Lex Luger. Giant Gonzalez versus Undertaker. Yokozuna versus Bret Hart, and Yokozuna versus Hulk Hogan.
There it is. Okay.
It's great. It's a great card. Look, just if you're into fantasy booking, this, first of all, Dan, if we ever do a fantasy booking episode, this is the only, I don't want to say only one. This is the first one I would want to do.
Yeah.
It's WrestleMania 9. Go online and just type. There is a guy who has it's not a Reddit. It's an old word page kind of website. Who was under contract in the WWF and WCW by years and by months. You look at who's on the roster in April of 93 in WWF. Nah. That Bam Bam Bigelow's left off this card. The Nasty Boys are left off this card. Technically, Owen Hart's on the roster, and this garbage. It's garbage when I say the best thing. The good is the venue.
Yes.
Because like you said, it was different. And two other little things, little nuances. It's the debut of Jim Ross.
Okay, yeah.
And Bret Hart's ring attire is freaking fire. It's like some dark but yet bright pink at the same time.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I was a mark for Bret Hart.
All right.
He looks awesome. It's like Bret Hart in his prime. The bad is Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. Definitely the worst Undertaker match of all time.
Yeah. But that's not the Undertaker's fault.
No. He was given this, and even Taker, there's been, interviews out of character where he goes, "Oh God, this was just."
Yeah. Well,
why do you keep doing this to me, Vince?
He tried making chicken salad out of chicken shit, and that's what you got. So
I'm allowed to curse in this?
You get a couple. It's PG-13.
Okay. All right. This match sucks. This event sucked. Everything sucked. Except for Bret Hart's ring attire.
Well, okay, you talk about the bad. Let's talk about the ugly.
Hogan coming out and just stealing the show.
Yeah.
And, this is one of the few times where I'm going to go a little bit deeper than just the event, that Hogan was leaving and Vince thought giving him the title would get him to stay, and Bret being a company guy, and Hogan saying, this is right from Bret Hart's book, that Hogan said to Bret backstage, I won't forget this, and when the time comes, I'll put you over, brother. And that was either supposed to be at the King of the Ring or SummerSlam. The promotional shots were done, and then Hogan said he didn't want to lose to Bret, and then he lost to Yoko.
Yeah.
King of the Ring 93, and then he went on to do WCW. So there's a lot of bad taste. There's literally almost nothing about this event that I like.
I was going to say, so all in all, not a rewatchable WrestleMania for you then?
No, not at all. I would be happy just watching Bret Hart and Taker come to the ring.
Yeah.
And literally that would be
Skip the rest.
Yeah. Not a good card.
Well, let's not forget, at the beginning of the show, Bobby Heenan comes out on a camel backwards.
The shenanigans in it are good.
Yes, I agree.
The stuff outside the ring, the entrances, the aura of the event are great.
Yes. But that shouldn't be the best thing of the show.
But like Bruce Pritchard said, then the bell rang.
Right. There it is.
There you go.
All right. Well, listen, that brings us to a monumental WrestleMania from a numbers standpoint. WrestleMania 10 in 1994.
At Madison Square Garden, which was the site of the original WrestleMania.
Yep.
And WrestleMania 20. And no, not 30, because why couldn't we have 29 at minimum at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey?
Yeah.
I don't. We went to that, and I remember telling you from day one, this makes no sense. WrestleMania 30 should be here.
Yeah.
At MetLife. But I'm happy it wasn't, because I got to see the last match of the streak at WrestleMania 29. If I went to WrestleMania 30, I probably would have left, and you'd be like, oh, no, I want to stay. I'm like, I'll take the train home then. I'm not watching.
Yeah.
I would have left. But I digress. WrestleMania 10, MSG. We started off with Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. Just hearing that.
Yeah.
Jeez. That's some good stuff. Bam Bam Bigelow. That's a joke for ECW fans. And Luna Vachon versus Doink and Dink. Not exaggerating. That's a WrestleMania match. Unfortunately, the last WrestleMania match of Macho Man, he fought Crush in a no DQ match. A Lunger Blaze versus Leilani Kai. Men on a Mission versus Quebecers. Man, that's some quality stuff back to back.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. Lex Luger versus Yokozuna. It's going to get better, I promise. Earthquake versus Adam Bomb. I promise it's going to get better. Razor Ramon versus HBK in the ladder match.
There it is.
There you go. And Bret Hart versus Yoko for the title. So 2 title matches. Lex versus Yoko was a title match. Brett versus Yoko was also a title match. The great for longevity for the common fan, it's going to be the ladder match.
Yeah. Very well-known match.
Yes, it was the first mainstream ladder match.
Yes.
I know there's been ladder matches in other companies, and specifically Stampede Wrestling. I think that's where Brett said he started it. I'm sure there's others. There was a dark match on like a Coliseum home video between Brett and Shawn during the IC title days. But this was the first like real big mainstream ladder match. There's been other ones after that have been way better. But if you go back and you realize this is the first one, it's a good match.
Yeah.
The psychology in it's also very good.
No, absolutely. Because I've watched this match many times, and I would say, yeah, even by today's standards, it's a good match. It tells a good story, and you had two very, very popular superstars at the time, and it was everything about that match clicked for me because I definitely very much enjoyed that match.
Ha! You said clicked.
I did say clicked.
You did. The good is the Bret Hart Owen match.
Yes.
To me, just as good, just as important of any type of match on this card.
Well, and
it was a shock.
Well, and
that Owen won.
That's what I was going to say. That the most important thing there is that Owen Hart beat Bret Hart, and Bret Hart was clean, and then Bret was supposed to fight for the title later that night.
Yeah. So the storytelling at this WrestleMania is fantastic.
Yes,
it's fantastic. Where Owen beat Bret, and then it's Owen's biggest victory, perhaps of all time.
Yeah,
it's the greatest opening match in WrestleMania history. It's telling the story that Owen was better than Bret for that moment, but Bret was able to rebound to win the title. And then Yoko fought twice. But then you had Perfect as the referee with Luger. And remember what happened the year before. There was a lot of good storytelling.
Yeah.
But there was also some really shitty storytelling also. Who wants to see Bam Bam Bigelow versus Doink?
I mean,
garbage.
Maybe somebody, but I certainly wouldn't have wanted to.
Nah. It was very top heavy this WrestleMania.
Yes.
So the bad was the women's match. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about the women's match. Alundra Blaze was like the only woman on the roster at the time. It stunk. And the ugly is, come on, Bam Bam Bigelow. You're giving him Doink.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Well, and this is also, I think of WrestleMania 10 as the start of, that the new generation era, which in my opinion is kind of the dark ages of the World Wrestling Federation, where you started, I think ticket sales started going down, and it wasn't as popular as it was. Hogan was gone at this point, and so,
yep.
It was the golden era was over, and so
Macho was the last of those.
Yeah, and those guys. He was gone pretty soon after this, I think, right?
Yeah, because he wanted to wrestle, and Vince said no.
Yeah. So he was gone.
I actually think that WrestleMania 8 was the changing of the guard, which is why I like it so much.
Yeah.
It was, you started to see, yes, Macho won the title, but you see Taker, you see Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
You're seeing guys that are going to be great.
Yep.
Owen Hart's on the card. It's not a great match, but Owen Hart's on the card.
Right.
Brett, Shawn, Taker, Brett, Owen Hart, even Sid, he's going to come back down in a couple years. So it was the start of it. WrestleMania 9 was like the awkward teenage years of like, this isn't going very well. And the WrestleMania 10 was like, okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah. So,
and then that leads us to WrestleMania 11.
Well, before we get there, again, I always want to ask. So, WrestleMania 10, in your opinion, is it an enjoyable watch for you?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's a two-trick pony though. It's only, to me, it's only those two matches.
Yeah.
But it is the 10th anniversary. Some people still get a little excited when something's happening from MSG. I can understand why. I can understand why not. But the story of Brett versus Owen is a good story.
Yeah.
The story of Brett losing and then still coming back and winning is a good story. The Brett versus Shawn, the Shawn versus Razor match is a good story and a good match. So there's some good things here.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, fair enough. All right, that brings us to WrestleMania 11 in 1995.
Yeah, this is the bad one. This is when things get bad.
All right.
So WrestleMania, you're talking about bad ticket sales. WrestleMania 11 happened at the Hartford, Connecticut Civic Center.
Oh, that can't be that big.
We went from Madison Square Garden to a Hartford Civic Center. It might have been a big Civic Center. I don't know off the top of my head, but either way, I just Civic Center and WrestleMania do not go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It was also rumored that it was in Connecticut because things were so bad that they were going to save money by not having to travel, all the trucks and the production and this and that. This is also the era where a lot of the Monday Night Raws were like in the Northeast. They were in Maine, they were in Rhode Island, they were in like upstate New York or Western New York, Syracuse, Rochester, a lot of Northeast TV tapings around this era of 94, 95 because things were not good. Go ahead, Dan. Ask me how bad were things.
How bad were things, Lou?
British Bulldog and Lex Luger versus the Blue Twins kicked off WrestleMania 11.
Who are the Blue Twins?
Exactly. Razor Ramon versus Jeff Jarrett for the IC title ended in a DQ. The Undertaker's second worst WrestleMania match versus King Kong Bundy happened. Owen Hart and Yokozuna versus Smoking Guns. Pretty good. Bret Hart's worst singles match at WrestleMania happened versus Bob Backlund. Diesel versus HBK. And Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Can Bam Bam not catch a break?
Well, I mean, okay, hold on. Devil's advocate. The dude is in the main event facing off against LT, who not a wrestler, obviously, very popular, football superstar. I mean, that's a pretty big rub.
It is.
He main evented WrestleMania, Lou. You can't take that away from Bam Bam.
But okay, and he lost, and I think he never got over it. As a guy that's watching ECW as we speak, I'm going in order, and I'm up to ECW November to Remember 97. He's the champ, and he's still getting LT chants at him.
No, okay, that's fair.
It's just, I get it. He probably got a hell of a payday.
Yeah.
But, what Bam Bam wanted to, for the longevity of his career, would Bam Bam rather do the job for LT, or would he rather face the British Bulldog in the opening match and had a kick-ass match?
True. That's fair.
Yes.
Okay.
So, the good for this? Jeez, I really had a stretch for this. I say it's Owen Hart's first title victory.
Okay.
It is, but that's what I say. If you want to take something good out of this WrestleMania, Owen Hart wins his first title. It's the tag titles with Yoko.
Okay.
The bad is Undertaker versus Bundy is probably Taker's second worst WrestleMania match.
Okay.
It was bad. Taker's entrance is awesome, especially for the time. This is where he's wearing the purple gloves and hat. This is when they started to do the lighting for him, like really good. It's a pretty cool entrance, but the match is, and then the bell rang. It's garbage. The ugly is I didn't do the LT because that would be for a celebrity. It was a good match, so I'm gonna go with. Unfortunately, this is to me Bret Hart's worst singles match out of WrestleMania.
Which is interesting because Bob Backlund is a very good wrestler, or at least he was.
Yeah, it was, but you had every 30 seconds Roddy Piper, who was the referee, going, "Hey, what do you say? What do you say?" And you hold the microphone and you go, "Ah, no!"
Yeah.
Okay, great. Can we just have a traditional, submission match?
Yeah.
Would have been good, but no, it was...
And
I didn't care for it.
You know what's funny? You mentioned, Owen Hart's first title victory being the good here. I would actually say Diesel versus Shawn Michaels was pretty good.
It was, but Shawn was being an asshole around ringside and felt like he was trying too hard.
Maybe.
He was bumping. To me, the only match he bumped harder for was that match against Hogan in 2005. That SummerSlam.
Oh,
match.
yeah.
Yeah, I think his bumping was kind of goofy in this match.
Okay.
And watch the go back and watch the jackknife he takes to
it's terrible.
lose the match.
Yeah.
He almost lands on his feet.
Yeah.
So, no, I didn't like it.
Okay, well, fair enough. All right. So, safe to assume, all in all,
hard pass. My God, I think the only thing I've ever watched of this WrestleMania is I'll go on YouTube and just type in Undertaker entrance to WrestleMania 11.
Yeah, and then that's it.
That's it. Hard pass.
Oh man. All right. So that brings us to WrestleMania 12, and here it is, Lou. This is the one I owned on...
I didn't think this was going to be it.
This is the one I owned on VHS as a kid, so I've seen this probably a dozen times. So, can I actually do this one then, since I've seen this one?
Go for it.
Okay, so
Yes,
WrestleMania 12, 1996 at the Arrowhead Pond Coliseum in Anaheim, California. Again, a smaller venue, not the big stadiums they were selling out back in the late 80s, early 90s. But the match card for this, first off, you kicked off the event with a 6-man tag match. You had Camp Cornette, which consisted of Owen Hart, Vader and Yokozuna, and they teamed up against Jake the Snake Roberts, Ahmed Johnson. And actually, I take it back. No, I'm sorry. I screwed that up because Yokozuna was on the other side. So we had Vader, Owen Hart, and British Bulldog against Yokozuna, Ahmed Johnson, and Jake the Snake Roberts. A seemingly random tag team match, but there was a good amount of story built into this, primarily with Ahmed Johnson and Vader, with Yokozuna with Vader, because Yokozuna was on Camp Cornette before he decided to turn on him. So anyway, we then move on to Savio Vega versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, his WrestleMania debut. We have in our next match the return of the Ultimate Warrior against a man named Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You may know him better as Triple H.
I know him as Paul. I'm on Reddit. Paul's running the show now.
Oh, my God. Up next, we have Undertaker versus Diesel. We then have a match that technically has been going on throughout most of the show, but finishes right here before the main event. Roddy Piper versus Goldust in a backlot brawl. And finally, our main event, a very, very, very well-known 1 hour Iron Man match, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels.
So now I'm going to take your spot. So do you have, I mean, I got my listings, but who cares about my listings for this one? You want to go down the list? Good, bad, ugly, great, good, ugly.
Sure, yeah, I can.
Ugly duckling. What do you got?
I'll do mine. Yeah, no. I will say great. Absolutely going to be that Iron Man match. It was fantastic from start to finish. A lot of people. It's a very polarizing match. Some people say it's too boring and slow. Some people think, well, that's the whole point. Is it's telling a story of like, hey, they're in there for an hour. They got to pace themselves. Now, obviously, these guys have wrestled for close to an hour for normal matches, so it really isn't that big of a deal. But they make it seem like 1 whole hour. They've got to stay, vigilant. And so I thought they told a very good story. So I'm going to say that is great. I would say good is actually going to be probably the Undertaker versus Diesel match. I thought it was fantastic. In my opinion, Kevin Nash's best match that he's ever had.
Ever? Or in WWF as Diesel?
I would say even compared to WCW, I think it's one of his best matches.
I agree.
I agree. I think, he and Taker really clicked very well. I've always loved the Undertaker as well. So, I thought they just had a fantastic match. I would say the worst thing on this card, you actually had the same one, so I'm going to agree here. You had Ultimate Warrior versus Triple H, which you think on paper, oh, that sounds great. No, because Ultimate Warrior shows up and in about 9 seconds, wins the match after basically no selling, or what he did was he took Triple H's finishing move, the pedigree, he stood back up, and then he just, what is the term? Ran roughshod? Is that the term?
Yeah, he buried him.
He buried Triple H. He beat him in about 1 minute. So I would say that was definitely the ugliest part of WrestleMania 12.
I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
Warrior versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley was terrible, but fantasy booking Warrior versus Triple H would be interesting.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And if it was Triple H of, maybe the mid to late 2000s versus the Warrior, very different story there, I think, would be told. I will also say, dishonorable mention, I guess. Well, we didn't really have the ugly. I don't know, man. What would you say would be the ugly for this event?
Goldust when he gets stripped.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. He's
there you go.
Rocking the lingerie there. Also ugly, but ugly not in a bad way necessarily, was, at the start of their backlot brawl, Piper laid in some legit punches, I'm pretty sure, on Goldust. You heard those punches connect, and so
I have that as good on my list.
I guess that's fair, yeah, because it was good. It was great, but ugly and it
was violent.
It was very violent for the time.
Well, remember what's starting to cause a rumble in South Philly right now in '96. It's ECW.
That's true. Yeah, so they're trying to step it up a little bit.
Trying to step it up a little bit. You'll see more of it next year at WrestleMania, but this was the prelude to Attitude.
Yeah, that's true. They kind of hinted at it here, and I remember because this was the first time I'd ever heard Vince McMahon on commentary. Because I always knew
what a maneuver.
Because I hadn't started watching WWF until well into the Attitude Era, where he was this on-screen villain, and so when I see him on commentary, I'm like, what the hell is he doing here? But he was just this kind of dorky bow tie wearing dude calling WrestleMania matches, and that's all he was. And then he had Jerry Lawler, who I thought was fantastic in his role as the color commentator. So
he was.
All in all, man, maybe it's nostalgia, but I've always enjoyed rewatching WrestleMania 12.
So I was going to say you would rewatch WrestleMania 12.
100% would.
Okay.
So
I'll move on to WrestleMania 13.
There it is. What do we got? So WrestleMania 13 in 1997.
Chicago, I can't remember if it was the United Center, which is where the Bulls and Blackhawks eventually play, but I know it was in Chicago because LOD was on the card, and you wanted a Road Warrior pop. How about a Road Warrior pop in Chicago at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Hello. Started off with four-way tag match. Yeah. Yeah, the headshrinkers, the headbangers were a little bit ahead of their time, but they were involved. I didn't particularly care for the match. Rocky Maivia, Flex Havana. Dwayne Johnson makes his WrestleMania debut versus the Sultan, Rikishi. God, he had more gimmicks. Fought 2.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Triple H versus Goldust. Owen Hart and the British Bulldog versus Vader and Mankind. Steve Austin versus Bret Hart in a submission match. Damn.
Yeah.
LOD and Ahmed Johnson versus Nation of Domination in a Chicago street fight. And Undertaker versus Sid. So this was Attitude. This is the Attitude Era. We're there now.
I see.
So,
I don't know if I agree with that though.
You don't think?
I really don't. I honestly think, and we're next is WrestleMania 14. I think WrestleMania 14 was the start of the Attitude.
Everybody's got their own opinion.
I think this was the new generation trying to hold on for dear life at this point, and there's certainly hints of what would become Attitude, but it was still presented in the same fashion as WrestleMania 11, WrestleMania 12. I think it just. I'm not a fan of the show overall.
Okay.
But there are definitely highlights. Like I would absolutely agree. Austin versus Bret Hart, amazing match. You had Undertaker versus Sid, which was meh. I mean, it was okay.
Yep.
But all in all, yeah, it just felt like watching a new generation match with a few other extra added benefits like Steve Austin.
Okay, and I get that. I'm going to tell you why I think this is Attitude.
Sure.
So Triple H versus Goldust. Do you remember seeing Chyna like freaking ragdoll Marlena?
I do. Yes, that's true.
When did you ever see violence like that?
That's true.
Only in Philly, you did. Bret and Austin. There was WrestleMania 8. Savage and Flair. There was blood, and Flair got fined because he lied about it. There was no blood policy. WrestleMania 13, none of they having blood. Zoom in on it.
Yeah.
With Austin crawling towards the ropes.
That's a good point. That's fair.
And then you have the street fight with LOD, Ahmed, and the Nation of Domination. It was a brawl.
Yeah.
That was an ECW I mean, not like New Jack or anything like that, but it was as close as you were going to get at the time with the tables, with the weapons. And then you got the cursing of Austin. You got Bret Hart's heel turn coming right now, where he's going after Shawn and it's getting real and it's getting personal. There's an argument of when did the Attitude Era end? Did it end at 17? Did it end at 18 of WrestleMania? When did it start? This, to me, is the start.
Okay.
I think the Attitude Era, WrestleMania-wise, started at 13, and the culmination was at 18. My opinion.
No, fair enough. I think the only, like I said, my biggest counterpoint to that is if you look at WrestleMania 13 and then you look at WrestleMania 2000, and we're not going to talk about that today because that's not in the 90s, but you look at those two cards, they are so different from one another from a match, from a wrestler standpoint, from a storyline standpoint. So you can't put them both in the same category of Attitude Era, in my opinion, where you can't argue that WrestleMania 2000 is an Attitude Era WrestleMania. This is such a different show compared to that I can't put it in the same, bucket as Attitude Era.
You're right. It's not the same show. This is way better than 2000.
Well, and I've never watched 2000, so honestly, I don't.
I think it's way better. But everybody's got, again,
so
there's no right or wrong answer.
No, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And so you would, again, this is a rewatchable WrestleMania for you.
Oh, yeah.
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 Okay. So what do you got for the good, the bad, and the ugly?
I got great, good, bad, and ugly.
Okay.
So the great is Bret Hart versus Steve Austin. The older I get, the more I like that match.
Yeah.
And also, it's the debut of Ken Shamrock.
Oh, that's right. As the special guest referee.
Yeah. Like the most deadly, badass referee of all time.
Yep.
The good is I feel like the LOD Nation of Domination match, it set the tone of what's going to happen coming up in this. Regardless of when we think it started, this was setting the tone that things are going to be violent. So did the Austin match. It was violent. The tag match, Owen and Bulldog, Vader and Mankind. On paper, that's great. It's a double count out.
Yeah.
It's for the tag titles at WrestleMania. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. That could have been a very good match. The Rock's debut at WrestleMania is against the Sultan.
Yeah.
I get it. It's family. I sound like Vin Diesel now. It's all about family. Samoan Dynasty, I get it, but it's not.
Yeah, but
not what The Rock really wanted. But he does better next year.
Well, I was going to say, what was Undertaker's debut? He fought against, I guess Jimmy Snuka's kind of a big
Jimmy
deal.
Snuka.
Okay, never mind. I take it back. All right, never mind. I take it back. Fair enough. All right, so, yeah. Good show overall, and yeah,
yep.
I definitely could very easily be argued that this is the start of the Attitude Era, so fair enough. All right, that brings us to WrestleMania 14 in 1998.
Now we're in the Attitude Era, no matter what.
Yes, absolutely.
Now we're here. So WrestleMania 14, Boston, Massachusetts, Boston Garden, TD Bank Garden, same difference. It's the big arena in Boston, where the Bruins play, where the Celtics play. I think this is probably, along with WrestleMania 8, I feel like this is an underrated WrestleMania also.
Yeah.
LOD 2000 with Sonny, with their awesome hockey masks, win a tag team battle royal. Taka Michinoku wins a match against Aguila. Triple H versus Owen Hart. Mark Merrow and Sable versus Goldust and Luna. The Rock versus Ken Shamrock for the IC title. Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. I know it's Chainsaw Charlie, but it's Terry freaking Funk versus the New Age Outlaws in a dumpster match.
Well, they don't hide that either. They acknowledge that it's Terry Funk.
As it goes on. Like when he debuted for like the first 2 weeks, it was Chainsaw Charlie. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
It's Terry Funk with a stocking on his head. Undertaker versus Kane. They might feud or fight a couple more times. And Austin versus Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
So the great is it's not the best match, but the Austin era has begun. That's the famous line.
Yep.
So that's good. That's great. The good is Taker and Kane.
Yeah. Fantastic.
It's
match.
not their best match, but man, that storyline leading up to it. If you're into the storylines and the goofiness, and suspend your disbelief that these men have supernatural powers and can rise from the dead, pretty much. This is the start of that huge rivalry that would go 20-something years, if not more. So that's another good thing. The bad is, like I said, I hate DQ matches.
Yeah.
I hate title matches for DQs. Rock versus Ken Shamrock. Shamrock won. Then he goes postal, and they reverse the decision, and it's a short match. I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Rock won just with a roll-up, hook in the tights. That I would like that better.
Okay.
I hate DQs. It's a cop-out.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think this, and also Cactus Jack, Terry Funk versus Outlaws is good. This is a good This is a good WrestleMania.
Is there anything ugly about this show for you?
Yeah, I think Rock Shamrock is not good because of the back and forth. I felt like they couldn't make up their mind. A lot of people hate on the LOD 2000 Battle Royal. You gotta, to me, and LOD, the Road Warriors were a little bit before my time. I mean, I watched them in the early 90s, but, NWA, WCW, AWA, I didn't see the Road Warriors really come into their own. I just knew them as LOD in the WWF.
Yeah.
This was a WWF trying to reinvigorate the greatest tag team, perhaps of all time. And to do it at the stage of WrestleMania, some may consider it a throwaway match. It's not. It was a really big shot in the arm of, okay, we're going to give these guys one more push because they're regarded. That would be like taking a guy in the WWF now and, that's kind of been floundering, and, we're going to do something with him. We're going to try to reinvigorate his career here, and a little bit of a new look and a little bit of a new attitude. They had Sonny with them, so that it was something different.
Yeah.
So it's not a work of art by any means. As soon as they came out, you knew they were going to win, but it was a reintroduction. Mark Merrow and Sable versus Goldust and Luna, not a bad match.
No, it's not. And don't forget, Sable at this point was insanely popular.
Oh, yeah. Ridiculously popular.
Yeah.
So very good. I think a very good WrestleMania. I do go back and watch this. Also, Austin versus Michaels. Michaels, I couldn't even bend down. He was squatting to pick up Austin. He couldn't even actually bend down, like tie his shoes.
Yeah.
He had to squat like he was a catcher to get Austin. So it's the last we're going to see of Shawn Michaels for a couple years. But overall, yeah, I'd go back and I'd watch this.
So here's the thing. You listed the bad as the Rock Shamrock IC title match, but you don't have an ugly. Is this truly a non-ugly WrestleMania for you?
Yeah, it's really not.
Okay.
I don't have anything that I look at and just go, this sucks.
Yeah. Okay.
The closest I get is the Rock Shamrock, and some people are going to say the tag team battle royal sucked.
Yeah,
that's fine. But to me, I'm looking at it from a professional view, if you will, as a plug for one of our other podcasts we did, Professional View of Wrestling, about the WWE funding ECW. But the professional view of it is, it was a match to get this new generation, like, hey, these guys are freaking legit. They're badasses. And now they got a hot chick with her.
Yeah.
Because the last time you saw them, they had some bald guy with a dummy. Now they got the hot chick.
And not only that, but it's going to set them up as the team to beat. So whoever beats them is going to get that rub.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree. I mean, listen, I can't disagree. I think WrestleMania 14 is a solid show. We didn't even talk about Mike Tyson being on the show. I would say that would be the great part. You mentioned all the match as a whole with Austin and Shawn Michaels, but I mean, Mike Tyson, man, that was huge. I think that was in my opinion, WrestleMania 14 was the shot in the arm to get the WWF, over, the dark ages of the early to mid 90s, and now they are from what I can see, trending upward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They were. And then, remember, the next night, whole new DX.
Yeah, that's right. Because
whole new DX.
Shawn Michaels was gone.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels was gone. Triple H was the leader. X-Pac, Sean Waltman, 1, 2, 3 Kid, 6, what do you want to call him, came back. That was a big jump.
Yeah.
That was big. And then the Outlaws became with DX. And this is a very important WrestleMania, and the next night is important because The Rock is a star now. He's going to take over the Nation of Domination very shortly after this. They're going to feud with the new DX. DX is going to be good. Austin's going to be phenomenal. Taker and Kane are going to have an Inferno match down the road. Shamrock's still going to be a badass. Sable's going to get even more popular. LOD's going to have a little bit of a run, like you said, but the rub, I mean, it didn't happen the good way, but all intents and purposes was to get them going again. It's a good and important WrestleMania.
Yes.
And that we haven't said that about a lot of these.
No.
It's an important WrestleMania. Like even when Hogan beat Warrior
beat Hogan.
Warrior beat Hogan. It was a shock, but it didn't change the scope of everything for years to come.
Correct.
Either did WrestleMania 8, and I love it. It didn't. Either did 10. Nothing. This changed everything, and quick, like the next night.
Yeah.
Austin's the guy. Triple H is the guy in DX. It's a new DX. Rock's going to be the guy. It's like Taker showed a badass side, not just the demon phenom side. Like he fought. He actually fought in the match. Taker started to change his repertoire and have a little bit more ground and pound and all this stuff. So, and Kane's still a monster. Kane took 3 tombstones in this.
Yeah. And then he was up pretty quickly. I think he ended up like standing over Undertaker even though he lost.
Yeah, he kicked out at like a 1, 2, 3 kick out.
Yeah.
So, and then he beat up Taker after the match before everybody miraculously kicks out of 15 finishing moves at every WrestleMania now.
Yeah.
First guy to do that in reality was Kane in this.
It's true. Yeah. And
you can hear the crowd gasp.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it when Kane kicks out of the first tombstone.
Yeah.
You hear the crowd gasp.
Yep.
Like that's Hogan didn't do that.
No.
Maybe he did. No, Hogan did, but Hogan doesn't count.
No. Because it's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we got one more on the list here to wrap up the 90s. WrestleMania 15, 1999.
Overrated. To me, this is the most overrated WrestleMania of the 90s.
Really?
Yeah.
Like even more than like WrestleMania 9.
WrestleMania's not overrated. Everybody thinks it sucks.
Okay, that's fair. So there's a lot of people like WrestleMania 15, but you would vehemently disagree.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is, I have good memories because it's the Attitude Era.
Right.
Attitude Era was awesome.
Yes. But not this one.
And then you actually watch some of the Attitude Era.
And then the bell rang.
It's like, and then the bell rings. Hardcore title 3-way.
So where did this one take place, by the way?
Oh, this took place in Philadelphia.
Okay. ECW's backyard, as it were.
ECW's backyard. And what way can we start off in Philadelphia? Let's start off with a hardcore title match.
Well, there it is. I mean, look, off to a good start, right?
No, it sucked. And Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett versus Tess and D'Lo Brown, that sucked. And so did the Brawl for All. And so did Big Show and Mankind. And so did the IC title 4-way. And so did Kane and Triple H. And so did Sable and Tori. Folks, I'm not listing all the shit in order. I'm just going down the card. They all sucked. All those matches sucked. You know it's a shitty pay-per-view when X-Pac versus Shane McMahon is the second best match of the night. Actually, no, it is the best match of the night. I'm going to say it. Because the next match sucked too. Taker and Bossman in Hell in a Cell. But that was doomed to fail because the Hell in a Cell before it fully got thrown off the cage. How?
You can't top that.
How are you going to top that?
How did they try to top it?
Well, they tried to Mick Foley almost died twice. So they said, well, he almost died. Let's show that Big Boss Man's like going to die. I will say the sight of like the evil, demonic Lucifer-looking Undertaker, man, that robe, that entrance, top tier. Taker. We had like the Shredder outfit on.
Oh, yeah.
The match sucks, but the image of like this really evil version of Undertaker literally hanging Boss Man from the top of the arena, I still don't know how they did that. And Bruce Pritchard will not reveal how they did that.
Yeah.
I don't want to know how they did that, but that's holy crap. That was awesome. Match sucked, though. Then Austin vs. Rock happened. And it was a typical 99, 98, 2000-esque post-neck injury Steve Austin brawl. It was just meh. It was all right. There's nothing to write home about. Take away the pomp and circumstance of it being a WrestleMania. Put that match on, I don't know, No Mercy. And you'd be like, not that great.
Yeah.
Plus, again, predictable storyline. You didn't think Austin was going to win at WrestleMania?
Well,
come on.
I mean, it's The Rock, though. I mean, at this point, The Rock is, I don't know. I mean,
it leads to a Rock face turn.
It's true.
Leads to The Rock's becoming a good guy.
Yes.
Sorry, I sound like a fanboy. Are you the faith? The Rock turns into a good guy.
Yeah.
And off he goes. So it is important, but I can't get past it. This was just crap.
Yeah.
Absolute crap.
All right. Well, then let's. I'm assuming there's no great, so let's just go good, bad, and ugly.
Good as Shane McMahon.
Yeah.
Shane O'Mac. And in general, it's a good match. When you go back and you take into consideration it's his first real, I don't want to say it was his first televised match. I can't remember if it was or not. He may have done like tag team matches. I mean, somebody would point out he did a tag match like 8 weeks ago beforehand and a dark match. I don't know. But this is his first like real match.
Yeah.
And boy, did he deliver. It was really good. That's the good. The bad is the Hell in a Cell. It was set up to fail. It's just Taker and Bossman are not going to have anything. You had Taker and Mankind and Taker and Shawn. No, that was not good. One better was probably as a casket match.
Yeah.
And ugly is Sable versus Tori. It's regarded as one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Very bad. Very, very bad.
Because I remember Tori was a good wrestler. It was Sable, obviously. That was.
Yeah, Sable wasn't a wrestler.
Yeah.
And the only at WrestleMania 14, it was a mixed tag.
Yeah.
So she'd go in, she'd do her move, she'd tag out. Goldust and Mark Merrow, two good wrestlers, would do their thing. She was protected. Here she was unprotected, and it showed.
Yeah.
But still a better wrestler than I would be.
Well, fair enough.
I'm not knocking. We've said this before on our shows. We don't knock anybody.
No.
Because they're better athletes than us. They're better wrestlers than us.
Yeah. 100%.
Just calling it like I see with their opinions.
Yeah. So, from a rewatchability standpoint,
no,
I can't even.
No,
You want to let me ask the question?
No, it's terrible. The nostalgia is strong because of the era it's in.
Yeah.
I'll compare it to another one for a moment. WrestleMania 5. It's Hogan versus Savage in the main event. That sounds great. It's the golden age. That WrestleMania sucks.
Yeah.
It's so overbloated with matches. It's terrible. It's terrible. Plus, you also have Michael Cole, a young Michael Cole, doing the commentary of WrestleMania 15.
Oh, yeah, it's not Jim Ross. That's right.
No, Jim Ross was having issues with his Bell's palsy. Comes back for the main event. And you didn't even touch on the Brawl for All. I could have a whole show just ripping this one apart.
Oh, the Brawl for All?
Brawl for All.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Poor Bart Gunn.
So, yeah, let me explain this one to the listeners. So the Brawl for All was the WWF attempting to kind of bring a UFC flavor into its product, where they held a tournament with guys who would volunteer. This was legit. They would volunteer to have fights, like real unscripted fights with each other, with boxing gloves on in the ring, and they would score like points. They would be a legitimate contest. I don't know how the rules were determined, but they'd have gloves on, and they get points for getting the most hits, for takedowns, things like that. It was 3 rounds. And so starting, I think over the summer even, they had these they had a tournament where you'd have guys fight each week in a single elimination and work their way down the brackets. And a gentleman named Bart Gunn, who was one half of the Smoking Guns tag team from a couple years back, he legitimately won the contest, despite what a lot of people were hoping for as far as other participants. And his reward for winning was getting to fight a boxer named Butterbean. Now, if you remember anything about 90s boxing, there was something called the Tough Man Contest, where people would it was an open weight class boxing, I wasn't unsanctioned, but there were boxing matches, but they weren't like HBO level boxing matches. And so the top of the heap in this promotion Tough Man was a guy called Butterbean, a very large, very bald man who wore American flag shorts and would just beat the shit out of you. And so he was a legitimate boxer. I mean, he was a big guy, but the dude could hit like a freight train. And so they just said, okay, Bart Gunn, you won the Brawl for All. You're going to go ahead and fight Butterbean in a legitimate boxing match at WrestleMania. And I think it was over in, 30 seconds or something?
I think he knocked him down for the first time within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Got up. Referee said, you're okay. Took 2 steps and got his bell rung.
I
mean, scary. Like, he had head whiplash going down to the mat.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It was rough. It was not fun to watch. It was
almost like a punishment, because did you know that the Brawl for All was originally not supposed to be scripted?
I did, and I remember who was supposed to win.
Who was supposed to win?
Dr. Death Steve Williams.
And then Vince Russo said, nah, bro, we should make it legit. And then Barco went out and beat Dr. Death Steve Williams, and then went, oh, shit.
What do we do now?
Okay. So,
yeah,
he won.
There it is.
So that was a very, very disappointing WrestleMania.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
And this is 1999.
Yeah.
So the only thing that's more disappointing than this WrestleMania 1999 was the fact that the New York Jets went to the AFC Championship game in January of 99, and they...
Wait, Lou, you there? Oh, shit. I think he broke his microphone. Oh, man. Well, listen, I guess that's a sign. That's time for us to wrap it up. Guys, thank you so much for listening. If you like this show, and if you know somebody who would like this show that maybe grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, make sure you spread the word. Share out the channel, whether it's on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Share it out with somebody you know. Make sure you're checking us out on YouTube. We are doing some fantastic stuff over there with regard to Power Rangers, wrestling, video games, Ninja Turtles. It's all going to be on there, so check that out. And thank you so much for listening, guys. This is so much fun for us to do every single week, and hopefully Luke gets his microphone fixed for next time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.